This is Edward from HKExcel. So I know a lot of you guys have watched my Math IA video, and this time I'm going to make the Business IA video for you. So it will be like up to a quality, and like after this video, you'll be able to know like how to get a level 7 in your Business IA. Yeah. So I basically the video I make today, I have interview like a lot of students. Around like 50 students who got like level 7 in their business IA. So I'll basically review and summarize all the tricks into this video, so you'll be able to like structure your own level 7 IA as well. Yeah. So let's go to the first part. Sorry. Okay. So basically, in your business IA, if you're doing if you're doing business higher level, okay, then your word count. For SL is also the same. The word count is 1,500 words. Yeah. So and the word limit is very, very important. So make sure you don't go beyond 1,500. Okay. So like if you want to get a level 7, make sure the word count is within the limit. Yeah. And secondly, what is the difference between SL and HL Business IA? So it's basically the research company. Yeah. So for SL Business, you can research a company that is like global, okay, or like internationally scaled. So for example, you can like do Starbucks, but you don't need to interview them. Okay. So but for HL, you need to find a local company that is legit, and for this part, so then you need to interview like the owners of the business. Okay. So right now, you understand the point. That is for SL, you can basically based on like secondary research, like secondary information, because they are like listed company, and you can like search the data online. But for HL IA, you can only find the local company. Yeah, so that's the difference. So basically today I'll go through like all the 8 parts here. So this is how you structure your IA. You need to include like all these 8 parts. The first part is research question. So basically for a research question, many students don't know how to like structure a good research question on that. Yeah, so this I'll review it to you as well, and I'll tell you what is mean by executive summary, introduction, methodology, main results and findings, and analysis and discussion, and also the conclusion. So I'll teach you like one by one. So first, let me go through research questions. So basically, your research question, how should it be like, right? So I'll suggest you to start with like should something. Okay, should the company, yeah. So should the company, let's say, should XYZ company provide? So basically, the structure it has to be like should and then company here, yeah, and then provide. For example, let's say if this time the topic I'm going to do is finance, okay? Provide like incentives for customer for early payment as a means of improving working capital. Okay, so this is like one of the example of the research question. So for example, like you need to say like should, start with should, right? And then provide incentive for customer for early payment. So that is what we call the solution, right? The solution for the problem. Yeah. So this is company, solution, and problem. So obviously for this part, it's very clear that the company is having like a working capital problem. Yeah. So this is how you structure your research question. And of course, you need to make sure that the problem is also like in business terms. Yeah. So you don't say like lack of money. Yeah. So you say like working capital. So and this is how you start with your question. And this is just one example. And secondly, how to choose your topic, right? So there are many topics like HR and then marketing and then finance. So based on my research is that like most students who got level 7, they will be able to, they were choosing like finance topic. The reason why is that is because you need to back up your data with like a proof, right? So and also like you have to use like the academic references. So but for HR and also marketing, so it's basically like kind of hard for you to find some like legit resources. back up your information. Yeah, but for finance, we do have the benchmark, the numbers. For example, like the ratio. Yeah. For example, like acid test ratio. Yeah. So for that, we can always refer to even your textbook. Yeah. We have a number that we know that is okay, and we can like evaluate that by using the academic reference, and use that to compare with the number you have just find out, and you have calculated like in the specific company, right? So that is the whole rationale. That's why I always suggest students to choose like finance topic, okay? Because you can work on like the cash flow forecast, yeah, and forecast, yeah, and you can work on like NPV, yeah, you can and you can work on like the working capital, like the current asset and liabilities, right? So all this would be able to enrich your IA, yeah. But for HR and marketing, I'm not saying it's not possible to get a level 7, but it's hard for you to benchmark the others because different company will have different marketing ways, yeah. So and like what you can mention is not that professional, yeah. So I would suggest you to do the finance topic, and then for executive summary. So this is like how you are going, how and what you're going to write your IA, yeah. So basically, it's your action plan, yeah. So what I would suggest you to do for the executive. Oh wait, actually, this is sorry. For the executive summary, we have to list out like the research question. The research question. So we list it out. So we mentioned that again. Should XXX and then do what, right? And also we'll list out like how we're going to do the collect the information. So obviously by like primary research, yeah, because for example, we're doing HKExcel Business IA, then we need to do the interview and questionnaire, right? So this is like, I mean, for the primary research is normally interview and questionnaire, because this is what you can always do, and you can also mention the results of, yeah. So and also for the secondary research, it's like you can compare the like online data in the same industry, right? And also, like maybe you can use like academic references, yeah, to compare the numbers, right? So this is what you can mention, and also like second part, you need to mention like the results of the data analysis. So and in here, I will suggest you to list out like a brief summary of your research, okay, of your primary research. So for example, let's say for the topic we chose, that is the working capital. For example, like the analysis show that the customer are willing to pay earlier. The analysis show that like with the cash with the early payment, like if you're offering like maybe 10% discount, customer is willing to pay early, yeah. So this is like, I mean, a short summary of your IA, and you need to keep mentioning that the solution will work, yeah. So what does it mean by the solution will work? Because when we refer to the research question, we always say we provide incentives for the customer for early payment, and actually, so like after 10% discount, it actually works. So you can say that. So it's actually an option, and proved to be financially like feasible solution, right? Financially feasible like solution. So okay, a bit messy right here. So it's basically the summary. It's just so let me list out all the things. It's just like quick summary of the research results and mention what works. Mention what works. As stated in the research question. Okay? So that's what you do in the executive summary. So normally, IB examiner will look at your executive summary, and sometimes they're like really busy and they don't have time to like read through your IA. Then they will read your executive summary. So make sure your executive summary would be like impressing, and what you're investigating like worthwhile to get a level 7. So, and I'll suggest the word count for this part less than 200. Yeah. Okay. Next. So for introduction, like what you should mention, obviously, is the company nature, what they do, and the company size, right? And the nature is that like they're a limited company with how many people, right? And what is their business? So you can mention all that, and of course you have to mention the problem they're facing. So for my case, then you can mention the working capital. So obviously, like the cash flow would have a problem. So you can mention the terminology like the credit period, the cash outflow is bigger than the inflow, right? Yeah. So you can say that, and you can say like the customer deposits. So that might affect the future inflow as well. Yeah. So you can mention all the problem they're facing, and then you have to mention again like your the research purpose, right? And the aim, the research aim, like to investigate like maybe. So for my case would be the option for of providing like the incentives for early payment. Yeah. So that is like introduction. So you have to mention the company nature, make sure the IB examiner know what you're evaluating, and also the problem the company is facing, right? And also mention the research aim again. And then finally, you have to mention like the research is connected with the topic. Which topics, right? Connected with which topics. So for example, like for this one, you can say like ratio analysis. Yeah. And also like cash flow, final account. So I would suggest you to mention 3 to 4 topics. Yeah. So this is how you're going to write your introduction. So I hope it's quite clear for you. And then for methodology. So basically for methodology, you have to mention like how you're going to research. So from our case, it will be like the primary research, right? So that includes the interview. And obviously, in this case, then you have to go detail about the advantage and disadvantages, right? So, disadvantages, right? So, basically, you can mention that like how many people you're going to ask for like the interview, like the sampling method, and how many people you're going to ask, right? So you have to mention the number of interviews, and also like is it a random sampling, and for this part you can mention like I probably like ask maybe one customer, then the customer like the friends of the customer, and ask them to like refer someone else. So that is what we call the snowball sampling, right? So you can mention things like that, yeah. So to make it more professional. And of course, you have to mention like the disadvantages, or you can say the limitation, right? So the limitation of your research. So what would that be? Yeah. So I mean, oh yeah. So and for this part, you can also mention the secondary research. what you're going to find. So for example, like maybe the academic sources of the financial data, right? So academic sources of financial data, right? Okay, and for limitation, always remember you have to mention the limitation of the research. Yeah. So for interview, obviously they might be biased, right? So if you ask them like, oh, what's your company can improve? Yeah. So and what is your weakness? Seldom local company owners, they will review their weakness to you, right? Okay, in that case, then that might cause like bias. Yeah, and also like if you're doing like the finance topic, so obviously the problem you might be having is the window dressing problem, right? So that is like they make up the number, yeah. So that might not be accurate. So that is what you are going to cover. And for the main results and findings, so what I'm going to do for a level 7 IA is usually you have to present your key findings. And when you present your key finding, not just like write a bunch of like words for that, you have to present it with charts. Like you can do like pie chart, for example, like 15% of like if you offer maybe like 10% discount. Oh, actually, like 73% of the people interviewed, like they will like pay early. So you can draw a pie chart for that. Yeah. So that is like one of the example. And of course, make sure your key findings is always related to your research question. Yeah. So our research question is always like, should the XYZ company provide like financial incentives to encourage early payment to improve working capital, right? So in that case, we have to make sure like we have a couple of questions. I mean the results that is related to the research, right? So for example, let me give you one more, like the length of period, right? We can also research the length of period, like in the company. So let's say like maybe the length of company for like the customers. So basically customer lifetime, yeah. So for example, like less than 40% of them will stay in the company maybe for like more than 6 months. Yeah. In that case, then that means like for the others, that would be maybe 40 to like maybe like 40. Another maybe 30% is like 6 to 8 months, right? 40%, and then finally like 20% of them will stay in the company for more than a year, for example, like that. Yeah. So in this case, then you understand like, oh, we're actually evaluating the cash inflow of the company, right? So then obviously the length of period would matters, like the customer lifetime. Yeah. So then I will suggest you to maybe like list out 3 to 4 main results and discuss about it, right? So discuss about it, that means like you have to discuss like what happened of the pie chart. Yeah. Okay. And of course you can mention the cash flow forecast results. So so if you're doing my topic, like finance topic, cash flow forecast. So what do you do is that obviously you need to have like the opening balance, like the cash inflow, outflow, and then and also like the closing balance as well, right? So so basically in this case, the challenge is that you have to make up the numbers, or if you're capable to ask for like the financial report from a limited company, because for a limited company, they need to find an audit company, okay, to make sure that their data is correct. So in that case, if you have good relationship with the local company, then you can ask the owner to provide you with the financial report. But most of them won't do that. In that case, how can you tackle this problem, right? So obviously you need to make up your own numbers. But in that case, then you have to make sure that like the numbers like is not exaggerating. like if that is just a company with 20 people, obviously you won't make up a number like they are earning like $10 billion of revenue, right? So in that case, you have to try to like make up some number that makes sense. Yeah. So I would suggest like if if that's a limited company like within like 20 employees, then you can suggest that like they're earning maybe 10, maybe like several $million revenue, Hong Kong dollars. Okay, so Hong Kong dollars, maybe several $1 million. So that will make sense. Okay, so for like 20 people, so I guess most of the local company you can find is with this kind of size, right? Of course, if that is just like 1 to 2 people, then probably their I mean like the revenue would be less. Yeah, so it might just go to like maybe several $100,000 a year. Yeah, so I mean like so for this part, I hope you understand. And what you're going to do for the analysis and discussion. Yeah. So many people will mix up with the main results and findings and also the analysis, because when they present the results, then they actually like intuitively they will just analyze right away, right? So I won't suggest you to do that, because I mean like we have the very clear breakdown for the paragraph for the IB IA. So for this part, you just present the results. Don't analyze it. And for the analysis here, then you can start to analyze. Yeah. So when I say an analysis, then what you can do is, okay, let me find some resources. Then what you can do is you have to list out a bunch of theories. So for example, like you can use a SWOT analysis, right? SWOT analysis. Sorry, I'm not free now. So SWOT analysis, and also like we can compare like the current ratio analysis. So basically, you can list out everything. Like for some people would be using like the force field analysis, right? So basically, list out everything you got, and then we start to analyze like in details. So for SWOT analysis, obviously we need to make a table of that. Yeah. So basically, in that table, you have to mention everything in details, and also not just a sentence. Like for example, like a bad example would be like strength. So if you just mention like, oh, they are profitable, so this is not good. This is not a good example. So you have to mention like why I mean they're profitable in, like, for example, you can say in short term, but in long term I mean like in short term you have to specify like the time, and also profitable like maybe in their like specifically in X product, right? So that is their like cash cow, for example. Like you can say something like that. So not just mentioning one word in the SWOT analysis, just like your textbook. Okay, so make sure it's in details, back up with the like related information for that. And for current ratio, obviously you can list out like the findings, and then you analyze with the numbers, right? So analyze with the numbers. So how do you do that? So it's basically like, oh, for example, if you got the current ratio is like 1.57 to 1. So you know that like I mean in textbook is normally like 1.5 to 2 would be better, right? So now it seems like the company fits the situation, but every time when you mention this, always look one step further. So when we look at that, like the asset test ratio, for example, in this case, so you're actually getting like 0.96 to 1. In that case, it's not 1 to 1 ratio for asset test ratio. Then obviously the company has like the working capital problem, right? So right now you get the approach of analysis, right? Of course, I cannot list out everything for you in this video, but I mean, like when you list out the numbers, always go one step further. Then you say that, oh, like apparently it has no problem, but if we look dip into like another ratio, we go and dip into the the company, you find out, oh, their asset ratio is actually not up to standard. So in this case, then you can like have more things to mention, and it will be more professionals, right? So of course you have to compare all this number with the academic sources, right? And then finally, for the conclusion, so what you need to write in the conclusion is always like you have to mention, you have to sell your solution that works, right? So how do you sell that? So it works in what ways, right? So for example, it works in like short term, yeah. So I mean, like because we are all offering discounts, right? So in the long term, the profitability might hurt. So you have to mention things like that. And but I mean, like other than that, you have to mention again, like the analysis, like after SWOT analysis, and also mention the theories and analysis again, right? So and also mention their like costs and benefits, right? Like their limitation, okay? Limitation of the analysis. So for example, I mean so basically, like for example, like the way that we mentioned, that is like short term, and also you can one more thing that you can mention is that, oh, even you offer discount, like the customer cannot pay you back because they really have a like cash problem, okay? So you can also mention that in your conclusion and recommendation. And obviously, not only your solution works, but also there are like other recommendations, like other solutions that might work, right? Yeah, so you can also mention that. For example, like you can consider like bank overdraft, yeah? So in that case, then you can also improve your working capital, not just by using the discount method, right? So basically, after you mention all this, then I'll suggest you to do a point form for the key recommendation to summarize all the things again, okay, in point form. So that should be like specific. For example, like should provide 10% off as incentive for like early payment, right? So and like you can also use like low cost marketing to improve like to reduce like the cash outflow, right? So then basically we list out like maybe 5 to 6 points, as a recommendation for the company. So and in that case, then you can finally summarize the whole thing. Like, oh, actually we can it's not just like the recommendation. I mean, for the incentive is not just one way, but we also have other ways to tackle the problem. So that will be for like further investigation of your IA. So that's how you end your IA, right? And finally, the appendix. What you're going to include in your appendix, obviously, is the interview transcript, right? So you can list out like the questions, and also the answers. List out questions and answers from the interviewees, yeah? And also like the questionnaire sample as well, okay? So, and what else you can include? So sometimes if you have like the balance sheets, right? And also like maybe the financial report from the company, they really give you that, then you can include in your appendix, yeah? So this is how you get your like level 7 in your business IA, okay? So if you need extra help for the business IA, of course you can find us for a lesson. But I think this video is quite like comprehensive and informative. I hope that will help you to get a level 7 in your IA. See you next time.